Scream 6 is like filled with Easter eggs, including one calling back to Jenna Ortega's role as Wednesday Addams. There are plenty of behind-the-scenes details for us to discuss, so let's just get into it. After watching the fourth Scream, we were left wondering the same thing.
Kirby dies, right?
This was left up in the air for a while, but according to this behind-the-scenes picture of Hayden Panettiere hanging out on set for Scream 6 with Jasmine Savoy Brown, we officially have our answer.
She gets stabbed, but she lived.
Hayden stepped away from acting altogether back in 2018 after struggling with her mental health.
I'm so happy that this is gonna be like my first project back.
She loves the character so much, and she feels it'll make for an easier transition back into the limelight for her.
I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Hayden isn't the only actress returning for Scream 6 either. Jenna Ortega will be here too, alongside her on-screen sister, Melissa Barrera. It would seem that Jenna's recent work on the Netflix series Wednesday had a bit of an influence on Scream 6 too, seeing as co-director Tyler Gillett recently teased that we might see an Addams Family reference at some point. The only other thing he'll say for sure is that it won't appear on the subway. But Tyler feels that so much of what Scream is that the real world can enter and exit this really terrifying experience at any moment. Plus, the fact that the movie takes place on Halloween makes it easy to slip in little moments like that too. As of Scream 6, there will only be 2 cast members to have appeared in every movie. The first is Courteney Cox, returning yet again to play Gale Weathers.
Just finished filming Scream.
This actually makes her a bit of a record breaker in the horror genre, as Courteney Cox officially plays the first female character to have returned for 6 back-to-back movies. And other than her, can you guess who the other returning legacy might be? That's right, it's Roger L. Jackson, who has graced us with his unnervingly gravelly voice as the Ghostface Killer in all 6 movies so far.
Let's play a game.
Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding will yet again be playing twins, Mandy and Chad Meeks Martin, from the 5th film. And now that we've discussed everyone who will be returning, let's talk about someone who won't be. Neve Campbell stepped out because of disagreements over her contract, which is much to the disappointment of fans and even fellow Scream alumni everywhere.
This can't be real news. Like, this has to be fake.
Tyler Gillett admitted that not having Sydney around would affect the script greatly, but he feels that this is a great opportunity to really dig into this new crop of characters. And to any fans of Sydney, don't worry. Jenna Ortega promises that there's references to Sydney in the movie. And speaking of references, Scream 6 has plenty of Easter eggs in honor of other big names in horror. As we said before, the movie takes place on Halloween, and this opened up the possibility for plenty of background characters in costume. So, if you look closely at the scene on the subway alone, you may notice a few familiar faces, such as the Babadook, Pinhead, and Jason Voorhees. One character can even be seen wearing Samara Weaving's iconic wedding dress and ammo belt from Ready or Not, which, interestingly enough, was actually the role that made Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett decide to cast her in Scream 6. And a fellow newcomer to the franchise, Josh Segarra, was especially impressed by the amount of Easter eggs the film was able to include, claiming that seeing all the little Easter eggs helped to make everyone more excited to be working on it. And another fresh face to the Scream franchise is Dermot Mulroney, who has been cast to play Detective Bailey. And if the idea of having a policeman play a major role here sounds familiar, it should. Detective Bailey is meant to pay tribute to David Arquette's character of Dewey Riley, who sadly left the franchise following his character's demise in Scream 5.
I can't tell you how happy I am to be the role I have in this franchise.
And the thing Dermot likes best about his role was being able to follow in the footsteps of the great David Arquette. Although, he's also pretty thrilled to be added to this franchise at this time, when things are starting to take a turn for the gorier, more thrilling action. Dermot Mulroney isn't the only one promising that Scream 6 is going to get bloodier, though. Jenna Ortega is too.
It just gets more and more gory.
This sort of ties in with one controversial aspect of Ghostface, which is that we've never seen him use a gun before taking up a shotgun in Scream 6. When the co-director Matt first heard the idea himself, he responded with, "What?" The two feelings of, what are we doing? And we have to do that. Like, he didn't want Scream 6 to feel safe or boring, emphasizing that he wanted Scream 6 to be fun and to raise eyebrows. This definitely falls in line with what Jenna has been saying all along, too.
I think that this is probably the most aggressive and violent version of Ghostface we've ever seen.
And this Ghostface isn't only more violent than any before, he's been doing his research.
What is this place? A shrine.
If you look closely at the items kept in Ghostface's shrine, pretty much all of them call back to previous Scream films. For instance, you can see Jill's blue flannel shirt and Billy Loomis's white t-shirt still stained with blood and corn syrup mixture.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
But it isn't only the clothing of previous Ghostface killers that have found their way into Ghostface's shrine. You can also see copies of Gale Weathers' book on display in a glass case.
Pop culture is the politics of the 21st century.
Thank you.
As well as Dewey's uniform from his time working with the Woodsboro police. So there's another reason why Scream 6 has been saying,
This isn't like any other Ghostface.
You may have already noticed that Ghostface has a slightly different design to his mask this time around, being more cracked and weathered looking than it has ever looked before. Well, Tyler Gillett felt that this new mask was one of those interesting risks and creative approaches that they took to this movie, describing it as being meta in a different way. Matt stressed that the design of the mask was not an arbitrary choice, but wouldn't give anything else away for the risk of getting into spoilers. So, who would have loved that Ghostface, loves pop music? Demi Lovato wrote the song Still Alive for the movie, and Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera introduced them to the franchise in pure Scream fashion.
Demi Lovato!
This cheery little featurette was later interrupted with a jump scare from Ghostface. Melissa and Demi nearly jumped out of their skin, but fans were impressed to note how Jenna barely even widened her eyes. Maybe she knew that there was a familiar face inside? Because when Ghostface removed his mask, it was only Mason Gooding.
I just really wanted to meet you.
A new Ghostface calls for an entirely new setting, too. You may have noticed that we've mentioned the subway a couple times now. Well, that's because Scream 6 takes place in New York, baby. The Carpenter sisters have come to New York to go to school, and Melissa promises this new setting to be 20 times more mortifying, because the city is so busy that when someone is screaming for help, you'll see that no one will come to their help. Despite taking place in New York, the film was actually filmed out of Montreal, Canada, making this the first film in the Scream franchise that was filmed out of the United States.
Would you like to play a game?
So which returning star are you most excited to see again? And were there any fun Easter eggs you noticed that we haven't mentioned yet?
Hello, Samantha.
Make sure to let us know down in the comment section below.